Hi YouTube. Okay, this is going to be my labor and delivery video. I've been trying to make it all day, but Aiden has been a little fussy butt, so I'm just now getting to it, and it's 1 in the morning, and I'm really tired, so I'm sorry if I leave some stuff out. There might be a second part to this video, so I'm just going to get to it. Oh, most girls have in their video exactly like what time certain things happen during their labor and delivery. Yeah, the only times that I can tell you that I exactly remember is when I got to the hospital and the time that he was born. So I'm sorry about that. I'll just tell you about the things that I remember through my labor and delivery. Considering I was in so much pain, I couldn't keep up with the times. Okay, here we go. Aiden was due January the 2nd of 2011. So a week before he was due, I was called in for my doctor's appointment, and when I got there, she checked me. I was dilated to a 1, and I was having minor contractions, and I had already been in the hospital one time before because they thought that I was going into labor, and it was a false alarm. Nothing. I'd been dilated to a 1 for like a week and a half, so I was still dilated to a 1, but I was having contractions, so she wanted me to go over to the hospital and get observed for a few hours to see if any changes would have been made or I was really going into labor. But she told me if not, and I wasn't going into labor, that she wanted me in definitely that next coming Monday. I was due on Sunday. She wanted me in Monday at 5 in the morning to be induced. So I went to the hospital, and of course nothing. I wasn't dilating, and I stayed for 4 hours. And all that next week, I had minor contractions, but nothing. It was just Braxton Hicks, I guess. Sorry, I keep looking over at Aiden. So here rolls around Sunday, and this is the day that I'm due. And I was so excited and so nervous because I knew at 5 o'clock that next morning I was going to be going in to be induced, and I was so nervous and I was so excited, and so I could not sleep for the life of me that night. So I was just diddling around on Facebook. My mom works a 6 to 6 shift at the nursing home here, and my dad was getting some rest because of course we were going to have to get up early to make it to the hospital because we live about a little over 40 miles away from the hospital that I went to. And here rolls around 11 o'clock that night, and I had the worst contraction I've ever had during my whole pregnancy, and I was like, oh my gosh, it put me on the floor. And I was like, oh, this could be it, and I was so nervous, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna overdo it yet. I'm gonna wait and see if I have another one. And 20 minutes later, I had one that was even worse, even more intense, and I mean, oh, so intense. I knew it was different. I mean, when they say you'll know, you will know. Oh, it really, really bad pain for me. So I called my mom over at the nursing home, and I told her that I had 2 contractions. They were 20 minutes apart that put me on my knees. And she said, well, what do you think, because we live so far away from the hospital, should we go? I was like, no, let's just wait it out. We'll see in case they get too close together. Well, she comes home for her lunch break, and I'm having them every 10 minutes apart. I can't talk through them, bad contractions, having to hold on to something. Well, Aiden's dad came over that early that morning. He got there about 2 in the morning, and I don't really remember much because I was in so much pain. I just remember getting everything ready. I got a shower. I tried to get all pretty to go to the hospital. I just remember getting all my bags and all of Aiden's stuff ready. And we left the house. I'm not sure what time we left the house, but we got around to the hospital about 4:30. So whatever that was. And they took me up to my room, the labor and delivery room, and they hooked me up to the monitors. That's the first thing they did. Well, got me in my gown, hooked me up to the monitors, and I was in labor. I was in active labor. She checked me I was a 3. Yeah, I was a 3. Oh, was I a 3? Yeah. No, I was a 2.5. And she's like, okay, Amanda, you're a 2.5. I'm going to hook you up to your IV. And she hooked me up to my IV, and I was in so much pain. I mean, just all I can remember is how bad the pain was. And after she did my IV, usually I'm like a freak about needles. Like, I can handle tattoos and piercings, but when it comes to getting like blood drawn or IVs or something like that, I am terrified. And she did the IV, I didn't pay attention. And she put the Demerol through my IV, and did not help me. It made me feel drunk and stupid and sick, and I still felt all the pain of my labor. Nothing helped. So I wish I really wouldn't even got it. I was dozing through each contraction, which were like 2 minutes apart now, every like 2 minutes apart. And she came in and checked me. I think this was about an hour later after I'd gotten there. And she was like, okay, Amanda, you're 3, and I can't order your epidural till you're 4. And my nurse was so awesome. I begged her. I said, please order it, please. And she's like, okay. So she went and ordered it. And, of course, the anesthesiologist came in about 15 minutes later, and I was so ecstatic. I just couldn't wait for the pain to stop. When I got my epidural, no, I was nervous when he came in, but I sat up on the edge of the bed, and the nurse kind of, I was hunching over, and I was talking to the nurse, and I didn't feel a thing. I mean, maybe it's because I was just so ready for the pain to be over, and it was really intense, and my adrenaline was, pumping, but I didn't feel one thing. Like, if you're scared of an epidural, I wouldn't be, because it is so worth it. After I got my epidural, let me remind you, I had not slept that whole day or that whole night. I had not slept until I got my epidural. I asked him if it was working, my anesthesiologist, and he said, well, did you just feel anything? And I said, no, nothing. He was like, well, you just had a major contraction. And he said, lay down and get some rest. And I had the best hours of sleep I had ever had after my epidural. Like, literally, the best sleep I'd ever had. And I remember the nurse coming in and waking me up to check me, and all my family and friends were in the room, all of them, and I had no idea that anybody was in there, because I had been knocked out. Like, I was just so tired, and everybody left, and she checked me, and I was a 5, and she was like, okay, Amanda, go back to sleep, get some rest. Your doctor will be in a little while to check you to see how much you've progressed. And about an hour later, I'm just guessing, I think it was about an hour later, my doctor came in, she checked me, and she was like, okay, you're a 7. She was like, I'm going to give you I'm thinking about 3.5, 4 more hours, and you'll be fully dilated. And none of my family had 8, or friends had 8, so they were going to go down to the cafeteria, and Michael, which is Aiden's dad, was going to stay with me. And so, about 15 minutes later, my nurse came back in, and she said, Amanda, let me see how far you've gotten, let me check you. And she checked me, and she said, you feeling any pressure? And I said, I've been feeling pressure for a while, but I was like, no pain at all, nothing unbearable. I mean, it doesn't even hurt. And she was like, well, you're fully dilated. We're going to do some practice pushes. And let me remind you, my mom, everybody had just went downstairs to get something to eat about 15 minutes prior to that. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to make a part 2. So I'm at, they just told me I was a 10, and all my family is down in the cafeteria. Alright, guys, look out for part 2.